All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Excel Reporter Spotlight Series. As new users, you are focused on a specific task or goal. This series is designed to take a step back and provide visibility to some fundamentals and capabilities you may have yet to encounter. The backdrop for today's presentation is the ISA 18.2 framework. This is an advanced module available with Excel Reporter. Just a little bit from an agenda perspective, I'll be walking through a short Excel Reporter overview, then we'll be doing an ISA 18.2 overview, then we'll be taking a look at the 18.2 module. Excel Reporter, for those of you that may or may not be familiar, allows connectivity to a variety of commercially available SCADA systems, as you can see, Aviva, Rockwell, GE. In addition to that, we have a very open architecture that allows us to use other types of input, for example, relational databases, or even a series of log files as input to be able to do reporting with respect to what happens within your operations. The design studio, the composer portion of the product, it's based on workbook templates. You're talking Excel spreadsheets, if you will, for the most part. The designer is set up to run on its own. You don't require Excel for it. Should you happen to have Excel and want to use that in conjunction, the designer will simply run as a plug-in to the Excel product itself. Additionally, we can leverage templates that have been created in Excel. We can import those. We maintain compatibility with Excel, and things such as formatting content or formulas that may exist in the template that the report that you're importing, we will maintain. We can run these reports either automatically, they can be set up on a scheduled basis, or you can run them on demand. What we'll be showing you today is using more of the on-demand approach. It serves better from a presentation and from a training perspective. We can run these reports can be based on a time continuum or events. We also have, in addition to what you'll be seeing here from the Explorer view, if you will, we also have a web browser or a Windows desktop client that can be used to see the reports. And the product can be set up to automatically distribute these reports. For example, you can export the workbook file itself. It can be an encrypted PDF. You can export these to be posted on a website. Again, we can also transfer these using email, FTP, or we can produce an export for a database. All right. The 18.2 framework. Process-intensive industries like oil and gas, there are often thousands or even tens of thousands of process conditions that are monitored for deviations in real time. This always creates a burden on engineers to manage the effectiveness of the alarm system. As a result, it can become difficult to determine if conditions are programmed correctly, ultimately affecting the ability of operators to effectively respond to and resolve them. The 18.2 framework is a standardized approach to managing and rationalizing alarm systems using statistical analysis. And this training session will demonstrate how Excel Reporter's alarm management module targets alarm sequences along with information on operator acknowledgement and resolution times to assist the rationalization of the alarm system. And let's take a look at the module. Right, so here is Excel Explorer. This is the user console, if you will. We're going to go ahead and run, as I mentioned earlier, we have the ability through workbook reports to see reports that have been generated on a scheduled basis. We're going to be doing this on demand fashion, so the on-demand reports. And let's go ahead and bring this up. All right, so what we're looking at here, we have a number of report templates on the side here. The ones that are components here are the alarm report, the alarm analysis, and the alarm flood. The alarm report, as you can see here, this is a multi-tab or a multi-report report, if you will. What we're looking at here is the dashboard. And the dashboard simply shows compliance metrics from an overall perspective. Now, one thing that stands out easily from this display here, specifically if you're in management, for example, is you can see that 10 of the 12 KPIs are deemed critical using the guidelines of the 18.2 specification. So if nothing else to pull from this particular view of the dashboard is that there's a lot of work here that needs to be done. All right. The next one we're going to look at here, we're going to come over to the alarm summary. Now, the alarm summary maintains primary KPIs and metrics. Many of the data that populated the dashboard come directly from here. So, for example, you can see the new total of alarms, number of alarm floods, for example, a variety of KPIs. What may be more important or useful, if you will, is one thing to know that there's a number of alarms and a number of floods happening, but we've got some graphics here to show you. So, for example, on this particular day for the report, you can see here for 9/23/2022, the majority of these alarms are advisory. A small portion of them are warning. Now, there are critical alarms that are being sent, but as you can see, it's a very small percentage. So that makes one wonder what might be going on within the organization. On the one hand, it's definitely beneficial that you have few critical alarms. But if the advisory or warning alarms are taking up time and attention from the console operators, that could be troublesome as well. In addition, what we can see from here is the alarm rate. Right per a 10-minute interval, you can see we have peaks. I mean, the by hour maximum daily activity. You can see we have peaks and valleys. Now, this, of course, could be by virtue of how busy the process floor might be at that time. For example, maybe the processes are offline at this time. Maybe there's just full coverage with respect to personnel within the plant floor. On these peak points here, obviously that would resonate with either full production or potentially the potential for lack of coverage. Maybe it's a shift change scenario, and some of these alarms from being addressed perspective, being acknowledged or not, is falling through the cracks. What this gives you, though, is the ability to target time segments to be more specific in how you investigate why you're getting the alarm volume that you're getting, and how to address it. Now, from a priority perspective, again, in this particular case, the vast majority of these are advisory, some are warning, very few are critical. That's not necessarily a bad thing that you have critical, but then again, depending upon the number of alarms that you're getting, you're getting a large number of advisory. And then over here, for example, what you see almost a quarter of the the alarms that you're getting are coming in at a rate that is unacceptably high. So regardless of the types of alarms that are coming out, most of these you have acceptable here and obviously manageable. This is getting demanding. You still have almost a quarter of the time more alarms that are being dealt with than is recommended. All right. The next one we're going to go to is the alarm source subreport. And this shows the top 20 alarm contributors, and this is what we call the bad actors report. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset. We'll come back to the settings here. I'm going to reset for all so you can get the full impact here. In this particular time frame, there really was substantially more. Sorry. There's 1,700. So you can see, for example, here we've got with this particular module and node, we've got 215 alarms. You've got 191 for the one right behind it, and then these drop off. But what you see here, for example, is the over a time continuum, which alarms are the ones that are causing the most activity or taking up the most resources at any particular time, and that's something that you obviously want to be able to address. Now, in this particular case, we can identify the bad actors, but that's just the starting point. Now that you know what the bad actors are, it probably would behoove you to dive more deeply into where and why these alarm situations exist. So if we come back over here, let's go ahead and run the alarm analysis report. Okay, let me refresh this. Right. Now, this is primarily used to track alarm details so you can more effectively diagnose and repair alarms. So specifically, every new alarm occurrence and the duration of how long it was active. So we have 4,324 of these here. Now, in this particular case, from the previous example I showed you, the bad actor report, we could actually come over here to the module. And right now everybody's turned on. We're going to go ahead and turn this off. And I'm going to go look for 1231 PDI 906. The one that we're looking at specifically. All right. All right. So what we're seeing now, here are all the alarms for this time period, which was September 23rd to September 24th. Now, what you'll notice is it appears all of these, most if not all of these, are advisory. What you'll also see is at least most if not all of these are, there was an active alarm that was unacknowledged, then it went inactive and unacknowledged. So you've got these toggling alarms, cycling alarms here that are taking up resources from the standpoint of attention span for the operator, and something that you probably want to address, all right? Or it's something that you could address. So I'm going to reset the module. Now, when we were talking before, we looked at the alarm flood, and it had a couple of main components there. So let's go to the alarm. Let's come to alarm floods, and you'll see here, for example, you've got this one alarm flood here. That was almost 3 hours. This one was 5 hours. You can expand these, and then see every alarm instance that was associated within that flood. So you can see a lot of these. A lot of these are advisory or warnings. Some of these are critical or what have you. So in one sense, it gives you more of a large view, if you will, of everything that's going on here, but you probably want something that's a bit more specific. So let's come back to the alarm analysis report. And in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drill down into an area for these alarm floods. All right, and the one that we want to look at first is the 1221 malt. All right, so this is the alarms for that day, the ones that were reflected in that alarm flood. And what you'll notice here is the majority of these are all advisory. Again, so from the standpoint that they're not critical alarms, ones that don't necessarily need attention or need to be resolved, that's a good thing. The fact that they may or may not be drawing attention from the operator at the console may be not so good. The other one we're going to look at was one of the other alarm floods. So let's come back here to area. And what we want to do is we want to look at 633, the wastewater. All right. Now, in this particular case, we've got a nice mix. You've got warning, but you've got criticals. You've got more warnings. All right. So again, this gives you more detail and the ability to drill down into the activity, the alarm activity, if you will, and get a better understanding of what actually is going on. This is obviously something else that may be of concern from the standpoint that while we saw previously they were all warnings or advisory alarms, these you see that they're mixed, and the fact that you're getting so many of these repeating over and over again, you certainly don't want to find yourself into some kind of a cascading effect. So something to keep in mind there. Now, one thing that I alluded to earlier here, all right, is, and let's come back to the alarm report and look at the dashboard, all right. We have this parameter panel here where the user can define different setting capabilities. So for example, here, you can define what positions, locations, what have you, however you want to define that within your SCADA, that's available from an alarm perspective. You could do the same thing for modules, for example. You could actually set this up so that you could either, from a display perspective, see only these. Maybe, for example, you're working in one particular building or in one particular area, and you don't need to see any of the other ones filtered on a column by column basis like you saw earlier. This way, you can go ahead, pre-filter the information that gets displayed on the page. And the same thing, of course, occurs for the attributes as well as the cycle. All right, so again, this allows you the capability. If we look at one that makes more sense here, let's come over here to the sources. For example, we can go ahead and we can predefine this information or pre-filter it before coming here and then filter down even more. Of course, you can filter all the way without having to deal with it in that particular case anyway. Now, something else that I'd like to bring to your attention, this module here the 18.2 reporting module, it is delivered on the, it runs on the Excel Reporter platform. As such, you have access to Excel Reporter on your system as well. Excel Reporter is kind of like the in the yin and the yang. On the messaging side, you've got alarm management and you've got notification. On the reporting and analytics side, you've got Excel Reporter. Now, this is set up so they could, Excel Reporter could go ahead and take the feed from any SCADA system that has, the alarm data available, any relational databases, as well as I mentioned earlier. In fact, we can actually use the other half of the platform, the SmartSights platform, if you will, Win911, which is alarm management and notification itself. All right. What we can do in addition to all this is, as a function of having Excel Reporter, is not only could you incorporate alarm data, as we've seen here, you could incorporate production data. So what we have here for the same time period is reflecting, for example, specific tags that are being monitored within the implementation on this time range, so that you can match up what issues that you're running into from an alarm perspective, seeing when there were floods or if there's some type of a critical situation, and being able to compare that with what's actually happening within the plant or the production site itself from an actual data perspective. So this allows you the opportunity to basically get the best of both worlds. Not only see from an alarm perspective what's being reported back, but you can actually look and see what production data it is, or production process it is, that's actually producing the alarms. All right. Now, what we can also do here is we can, for example, we can come in here, the connector. This is the SCADA source I'm using for the alarm management. This happens to be a simulator. I don't have any commercial resource available, but I'm walking in here simply from the standpoint of being able to show you how easy it is to modify this. We can come in here, hit the settings panel, and then look at the sub-report filters. The sub-reports are those other reports on the initial report I showed you, the tabs at the bottom. So you can here, for example, define all of those attributes from a filtering perspective that way I showed you earlier. So for example, alarm duration, all right? You can come in here, all is all of, for example, you can go ahead and now specify here using logic what an auto acknowledged alarm is, what alarm is, long alarm is, what a short alarm is. From an operator position, you can go ahead and list these individuals. So for example, here, building 12, all the processes that start with 12. But the grain silo, it's all started with 11. From the maintenance perspective, there may be multiple modules involved, for example, so you can go ahead and tie them together, and rather than having to specify every specific alarm type, you could easily here pull groups of alarms together that make sense and be able to look at them in aggregate. And then, of course, for example, modules, the same thing, whatever these happen to be, however it is you want to tie them together, and then any attributes that may exist. For example, any of these that are associated with any of the alarms in your SCADA. All right. Okay. So now, having walked through that, one other thing to bring to your attention here is, let me go ahead and do this. As you see, what you've seen here has to do with the console, the operator console, for we call it the Excel reporter, the Project Explorer. What you also do is, if you have the multi-user implementation of this, you can use the Excel Reporter portal to gain access to any of the reports that you have within Excel Reporter. So for example, in this particular case, what we're showing here is obviously from the web portal. This ties into and is a function and also works in conjunction with our mobile app. The mobile app would allow you to do the exact same thing that you're watching me do here, except it would be on a smaller format screen. Maybe it's on your iPad, maybe it's on your phone. But I could come over here just as easily, Maybe I'm a worker, an engineer down on the floor. I'm not up at in the control room, or I don't have access right now to a computer. I mean, to one of the consoles. I could go ahead and here remotely pull out any of these reports that have been published and get the information directly there while I'm walking out on the plant floor. So again, here's the performance dashboard. You could also scroll down here to the KPIs, you know, the summary, if you will, as well as any of the other reports that were in here. In addition, again, since you're tied via Excel reporter to any other data sources, you could look at some of the reporting that we have available here with respect to, let's see what we have here. Any production reports you see, for example, clean in place, if you have here from this fermenter, we could come here, look at building energy report, something that's run, and these can be set to run on a regular basis, and what these do on a scheduled basis, and they update automatically so that when you when you pick these up from a mobile perspective, you have the latest available information. So again, just something else to consider with respect to not only from a reporting perspective in general, from the 18.2 frame, the ISA 18.2 framework specifically, but with respect to being able to provide any, obtain any other information that might make it easier for you in your rationalization exercises to certainly be able to leverage the tool here that we've shown you. All right. Now, if we come back here, where are we? Oh, here we are. Okay. So what I'm going to do then, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at sales@smartsights.com. If you have ones that are specific to this presentation, simply mention understanding complex alarm systems. They may be more general questions. They may be sales related, technical. Please reach out, state that. We'd be more than happy to get back to you and answer those questions. And with that, I'm going to wish everybody a good day.